Good afternoon and welcome to Weather Center. I'm Janetta Jones. The rains from Tropical Storm Francis continue to drench many areas of Texas and the Gulf Coast. Flooding is a big problem and the threat of tornadoes continues to persist. For a complete update on Francis, we turn now to Jill Brown in the Forecast Center.
Okay, thanks Janetta. Yes, we do have the threat of severe weather, but flooding is probably the biggest concern, as is typical with a landfalling tropical system. We'll keep you up to date on all sides of this tropical system. Let's give you the latest stats right off the bat. And you can see that it does have winds of 40 miles per hour. It is centered now about 25 miles south-southwest of Victoria, Texas. The most disturbing thing we've seen today is that it has hardly moved, and according to the Hurricane Center, the latest update, motion nearly stationary. And until we see that change, we'll continue to see problems probably in the same area. And from the satellite picture, you can see the center of circulation around here, not far from where it made landfall about 12 hours ago, a little more than 12 hours ago. Heaviest rain is coming in northeastern Texas and into Louisiana. We have had some very serious flooding problems, and we'll take you right in to show you the problems that do persist around the Houston area. Heavy rains moved into the heart of Texas thanks to Francis. Houston sloshed to a near halt today as torrential rains hit flood-prone areas. Rain clogged freeways and sent bayous over their banks. Houston public schools were closed. The area has received more than 7 inches of rainfall, and unofficially we've had reports of up to about a foot of rainfall. Dr. Steve Lyons, our hurricane expert, now joins me. And Steve, fortunately at this point it looks like they're drier in Houston, but it may be a while to recover from this kind of flooding.
Yeah, a lot of the water that's in those low-lying areas is not going to go out easily. You're going to have to pump it out, so it's going to take a long time.
And we've seen some of those bayous go 10 feet over flood stage, inundating a lot of neighborhoods. We've seen these people walking through these floodwaters, and this is one thing that we've been a little bit concerned about today. That can be dangerous.
Yeah, it sure can. It's sort of sad to see the aftermath of systems like these.
All right, let's take a look at the satellite picture again, and then we'll talk about where the threat of heaviest rain is. Again, Steve, you can really tell that around the Houston area they're actually getting a little bit of sun, which also gives us the thought that maybe that's going to destabilize the atmosphere and give them more thunderstorms.
Yeah, there's still some potential for thunderstorms there. One thing that I've noticed here on the most recent observations, the circulation center's right about there. And there's starting to be some pressure falls just to the north of it here, and it looks like it's starting to move generally in a northward direction, at least temporarily. That's good news, as some of this moisture and precipitation is going to pull off to the north a little bit.
Alrighty, let's take a look at our surface map then, and we'll talk about where it might move and actually where the heaviest rain has been, and that may not be exactly where you would think. As far away as New Orleans, they have had as much as a foot of rain.
Yeah, you can see all over in here all this rain, and New Orleans is buried in some water in a lot of the low-lying areas. That's a shame there as well. But basically what's happening is up in here we have flow basically out of the east, and out of the Gulf it's out of the south, and it's just converging right along the coastal zone, basically from central Texas all the way across to the Mississippi, even into the Alabama border.
So you think that that old front that we had there may have helped to focus some of that heavier rain over Louisiana?
Yes,
okay.
Definitely the case.
And that's where they've had some of the heaviest rain as well. Let's take a look at some of the Doppler estimates. First off, in Texas, this is the Houston-Galveston area. Landfall was about in here today, is that about right?
That's correct.
And the heaviest rainfall was just north of the center, as you might expect. These, where you see the pinks in here, we're talking about 12, 13 inches of rain. So while officially in Houston it's something like 7 inches, some other areas have had more than a foot, and we may see that continue to accumulate farther to the north.
Yes, whenever you have these rain gauges, it's just like sitting one pot out in the area and hoping you collect the maximum value. Of course, these radar are estimate. They're not absolute values, but they give you an idea of where the heaviest rain falls. And it definitely looks like 10 plus inches is probably at least what has occurred in a lot of areas.
Well, we have some of those pinpoint spots to show you right now. Again, this gives you an idea of how much rain we've had from Galveston, about 9.5 inches, to New Orleans at 5.5 inches. And again, WVUE TV station has told us that they've recorded as much as a foot of rain in 2 days. So there's going to be a wide variance here.
That's right, there sure can be, and that may be the official National Weather Service forecast office that may have missed quite a few thunderstorms.
Okay, let's take a look at the latest radar then in the New Orleans area. Again, Houston has had very serious flooding problems. Now we're hearing that New Orleans, the same is true. Of course, they're below sea level, so they're just prone for this kind of thing.
Yes, and you can see a lot of these thunderstorms are moving in here. There's still the threat of severe weather, although the threat of severe has moved a little bit farther north. Now it's just a heavy rain that's inundating the coastline there.
And at this point, it looks like that band that's coming in over New Orleans is not shifting right or left, east or west. It's just pumping that moisture right into the downtown area. So we'll continue to update those estimates of precipitation. This radar here, Steve, gives us an idea of the overall picture. Again, what do you think our scenarios are? If it goes north?
We're in better shape. You can notice here the circulation is starting to look like it's moving north now along that pressure fall up into this general direction, and that'll shift the rain northward. Good news for the coast if that continues, or if that's not a transient trend. And of course, hopefully it won't produce too much flooding farther north. They need some rain in some of the areas farther north.
Okay, well that actually could be good news. I guess we'll just have to kind of follow it hour by hour.
That's right.
Okay, thanks very much, Dr. Steve Lyons. We'll keep you up to date on Tropical Storm Francis. If you'd like to get more information about the tropics or weather elsewhere, you can always check us out on the internet at weather.com. And in the meantime, we want to go back to the studio where we have a look at the rest of the country's weather and also a glimpse at your weekend.
All right, thanks, Jill. We have now a new severe thunderstorm watch in effect. Portions of Nevada and on into Arizona, where we've been seeing some flooding rains. We have flash flood warnings in effect for northwestern Arizona, so the potential does exist for large damaging hail as well as strong gusty winds and heavy rainfall. Just want to give you a heads up. This is in effect until 6 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. All right, let's go back to the maps and tell you once again that this Weather Center is sponsored by GM Cadillac, and this is going to be another trouble zone from Nevada into Utah as well as Arizona. Notice the heavier rainfall that's been occurring in northwestern Arizona. We've also seen some intense thunderstorms with some small hail, and it looks like that is just getting started. So more thunderstorms will be kicking about. What's happening across the rest of the country? Well, high pressure is in control for you in the east. We are seeing some cloud cover start to blow on into parts of the southeast in association with Tropical Storm Francis, although we're not seeing any rainfall here in parts of Alabama and Georgia, or even into Florida for that matter. We are feeling the effects in the form of cloudy skies. But Chicago looking good, no problems in Cleveland, looking great in Pittsburgh, and a nice looking Friday evening for you in New York City with 76 degrees being reported right now, 81 in the nation's capital and 78 in Atlanta, Georgia. So not bad at all for a nice fall afternoon. Now later on this evening, we're going to be really concerned with what's happening here as those bands of showers and thunder showers continue to feed into Louisiana and Texas. Heavy rainfall, flooding, just a big mess. Frontal boundary will start to make its way on into the northeast. We are going to see an increase in showers and thunder showers, though, not only in Nevada and Arizona, but also moving northward into parts of Idaho and Utah and Wyoming. Now, by tomorrow morning, looks like Montana could see some rain, and the front will be making its way into the northeast. So, if you are going to be traveling to the White and Green Mountains this weekend,
Tropical Storm Francis causes devastation along parts of the Gulf Coast, causing major flooding in Louisiana and Texas. Hello, I'm Lisa Moser, and welcome to this edition of Weather Center. The storm appears to be slowly churning inland, and there is concern that Francis will cause still more flooding. We're tracking the storm from the Forecast Center, and Janetta Jones has more. Janetta?
All right, thanks a lot, Lisa. We are watching very closely what's happening with Tropical Storm Francis. It's still a minimal tropical storm as of the latest advisory, and the movement has been almost non-existent. Let's show you the latest information. Movement is officially still stationary, although we have noticed a little bit of a northward drift, and winds at 40 miles per hour. The new coordinates are as follows: 28.6 north, 97.1 west, which centers at about 20 miles south-southwest of Victoria, Texas. We have new tropical storm warnings. Actually, they're still in effect from Morgan City to Louisiana to Port O'Connor, Texas. The warnings that were south of Port O'Connor have been lifted. So that's good news for you folks. And coastal flood warnings in effect throughout the coastline there of Louisiana all the way to Morgan City, Louisiana. I'm joined now by our hurricane expert, John Hope. John, we've been following this for quite some time. It's been a very slow mover, and today no signs of speeding up.
Well, it kind of scooted right along for a while last night before it went inland. You know, back about 7 or 8 o'clock last night, it started to move at a fairly good constant speed, I think, and then when it came in, I guess, about 1 o'clock in the morning. But once it got inland, then it didn't move very much, and it has not moved very much right to this hour. I do think we see a little bit of a nudge, maybe even northeast a little bit. But the bad thing about that is, JJ, it's keeping it very close to the coast. Mm-hmm. It's not moving in.
Yeah, as we look at the satellite vantage point, we can see just how close to the coast it really is.
Yes, it is. Now, one thing about it, though, we've noticed, and we'll see this better when we show the radar, is that we don't have a lot of heavy rain anymore right around the center. Of course, this rain coming into Louisiana, just tremendous rain bands coming into there where they've already had a lot of rain. And I don't see any let up there for quite some time.
We've had reports of portions of I-10 in Louisiana having to be shut down late this afternoon due to the high water. And folks are saying, please don't go out if you don't have to. Don't even get out on those roadways because cars are getting stranded and motorists are getting stranded. As we look at this particular satellite vantage point, you can see those heavy bands of rain not showing any signs of letting up, John.
No, not over there. And around the center, not quite so much. But I would point out, you know, in a tropical air mass, that even where you see the blues, you don't necessarily have to have reds to get quite a bit of rain.
Wow, that's a very good point. We are going to take a look at the radar, and that has been one of the biggest problems, has been with the heavy rain.
Well, last night it was tidal flooding, and today certainly it's the heavy rain. And the heavy rain is falling over the same areas where they've already had some pretty high tides. Now, fortunately, the high tides are dying down now because the wind has diminished quite a bit. There will be maybe 2-3 feet of storm surge still, but no more than that, we don't think.
New Orleans still getting the rain, and Lake Charles has been an area that has been very, very hard hit with rainfall. I want to show everyone this Doppler radar estimate because it's it's just incredible how much rain we have seen. Pinks indicating 10 to 12, even 15 inches of rain.
And a lot of that heaviest has been offshore, thank goodness, but quite a bit of it has made its way inland, as you can see as well.
All right, and as we go to the Doppler radar estimate out of Houston and Galveston, we've seen incredible amounts south of Galveston, especially in a place near where our own Mike Seidel is standing by with a live report. Jamaica Beach. Mike, can you tell us what conditions are like right now?
Well, Janetta and John, once again, the rain is back. We've been following these showers off in the distance, and they've blown in from the Gulf. Again, a reminder that we're not out of the woods completely yet. We're at Jamaica Beach, just south of Galveston, and this is what happens when you get several days of easterly winds, a foot of rainfall, and the tide tries to go out. It can't because of that easterly wind pushing it back into the back bay, the Galveston Bay, and also the canal. And look at all the flooding here. Good news is the water has been receding. You can look down the street here, Cabeza de Baca, and you can see a couple of boats. Good way to get around. We saw some guys earlier in jet skis, and unfortunately about 600 to 700 homes have been affected by this flooding. One home caught fire last night and burned. They were not able to save it. Now, when I came out here about an hour ago, JJ, the water was here, right here where I'm standing, about 3 or 4 inches deep, and now you can see that it's receded all the way over here. So that's some good news. The tide is going out, but the rain is back. We don't want to see that. We'll keep our fingers crossed that this shower is brief, and we'll keep you updated. Back to you in Atlanta.
Thank you so much, Mike Seidel, reporting live from Texas there along the Gulf Coast. Well, once again, we are very concerned about the forecast, especially with the slow movement.
Well, I'm afraid it's not going to move very rapidly at all, and that means it's not going to get very far inland, and that means that it still will wind down, we think, gradually decrease, but the process is going to be pretty slow.
Okay, we will keep you posted, and of course John Hope will be standing by monitoring the situation throughout the evening hours. As always, if you have questions about what's going on with this tropical storm, you can tap into the Weather Channel's online service at weather.com. That's of course if you're away from your television set. Now we go back to the studio.
Janetta Jones giving us an update. You can catch Janetta again along with John Hope, our tropical storm expert, at the bottom and the top of the hour. Right now we're looking at some problems a little further inland out in the west near the Las Vegas southern areas. This is Clark County, the regional radar that we're looking at. You'll note several thunderstorms. They're tracking pretty slowly to the north, putting out a lot of water. They could possibly even spin out a possible tornado or maybe a funnel cloud. So this is certainly some dynamics that we're going to continue to watch. Conditions have been deteriorating much of this afternoon because of these numerous thunderstorms. They are tracking slowly, so not only is the lightning, the tornadic activity a possibility, but also some flooding right now going on in Clark County. So if you're in this area, certainly if you're outside, do seek shelter inside. And if you're camping or hiking, I know you're going into the weekend, but try to head to high ground. It's a dangerous situation. We'll continue to watch this area this afternoon. Let's go back to another source. I want to point out just a little bit further to the south, things are improving at this time in and around Phoenix, Arizona. A lot of the moisture is now up around Flagstaff, Arizona. This is all in association with our monsoonal flow and an upper level low that's hanging just to the west of Nevada State. A lot of this moisture overnight tonight will push a little further to the north. And so Montana, you've been in the clear of this stormy situation for much of the day, but tomorrow afternoon it looks like you're going to be included. Do keep that in mind. Eventually this low will work its its way out of the Rockies. We'll be talking more about that coming up in the forecast. The cloud cover from our storm Francis is extending well into the Tennessee Valley area. A large deck of high clouds is encompassing much of the southeast, and that's kept the temperatures down a bit for today. Atlanta right now 80 degrees, Birmingham 79, Panama City at 81. It's dry in the Carolinas and a little warmer, 81 right now in Raleigh-Durham's area. Here's our frontal boundary across the upper Midwest and the northern plains. You'll notice not a lot of cloud cover, but still some rain in and around this frontal boundary. That's kept the temperatures down a little bit around International Falls right now, 74 degrees. Very warm in Marquette today. This probably is record heat around the UP, 89 degrees right now. Tomorrow our frontal boundary will push a little further to the south, and so hey, we'll say goodbye to those summertime temperatures. In the northeast, lots of sunshine. Our warm front will be moving in from the west out of Canada. Tomorrow we've got a chance of seeing a little overrunning, and that may give us a little more cloud cover, take away some of the really nice sunny skies that we saw for today. And the
Blues Festival, sponsored by the House of Blues Tours and Talent. Now your local forecast on the Weather Channel.
Thanks for joining us for Storm Watch. Coming up shortly, a little bit about severe thunderstorms today around Las Vegas. It's only in the 60s right now. Very cool day today around Las Vegas. Right now, though, Tropical Storm Francis, TS means both things actually. Tropical Storm Francis, centered 20 miles south-southwest of Victoria, 40 miles per hour, top sustained winds. That has not changed since the last advisory. So we're talking about a minimal tropical storm here, but the main problem, and it doesn't take much of a tropical storm to cause a problem, the main problem is flooding rains. We've seen that in Texas as well as Louisiana. Tropical storm advisories have been updated as of the latest advisory, now from Port O'Connor all the way over to Morgan City. That's where the tropical storm warnings are in effect, and there's a very good chance that later tonight they'll be dropped completely, and we expect this no longer to be a tropical storm later tonight. Coastal flood advisories also for areas of the Mississippi and Louisiana coast. Well, as we check over to areas of the Gulf of Mexico, the satellite photograph showing center circulation right about here. It appears that there's a bit of a northeast drift here with that center. It was stationary for a good while today. Closer view, the visible shot here showing the Texas coast. Center circulation, let's see if we can make that out when this is in motion. Right in through here. Watch this spin, counterclockwise spin. Does look like it's moving off to the, maybe off to the northeast here. A little bit of jog that way. Today over toward Galveston and back up to Houston. Drier conditions than recently. Jamaica Beach hit very heavily. Of course, apparently the rain or the water even higher than Alicia. We remember Alicia back in '83, and I certainly remember Alicia first week here at the Weather Channel, actually. Radar estimation of precipitation This was yesterday. If you remember, 2 days ago, the heaviest of the rain was down toward Brownsville, 4.5 inches. Yesterday, heaviest of the rain up across the upper Texas coast. And these estimates really are downplaying a little bit. Some of the totals were between 5 and 10 inches, not just primarily 5 to 6, but some of the totals were close to 10. Checking today, heaviest of the rain appears to be north and east of Houston. Some of the totals probably in that 3 to 4 inch range. Right now, the latest radar showing that center of circulation right through here. Houston overall pretty dry now, but rain flying up to the north. Some of it's coming into Dallas-Fort Worth. I guess some welcome showers. Very heavy rain, the southwestern parishes of Louisiana over to New Orleans. You've seen quite a bit of rain again today. So that's the situation. Probably tomorrow, more showers from Mississippi, Louisiana into Texas. Rest of the Caribbean Sea, impressive tropical wave here. That one appears to be headed toward Honduras and Nicaragua into Central America. For now, though, the Bay Islands okay. Few high clouds. Cayman's fine. Jamaica, more clouds. Puerto Rico looking fine, but looking east of the islands, overall pretty inactive. Maybe a little bit here in the intertropical convergence zone. At the present time, nothing to be concerned about. And looking out toward the coast of Africa, nothing developing either. So we have one game right now, and that's it. Tropical Depression Javier, final advisory as of 2 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Here's the latest information. Satellite photographs showing this one winding down pretty good. One of the top stories also into Las Vegas, showers and storms building up. Some of these have been severe. More about this at the top of the hour.
Tropical Storm Francis continues its slow trek across South Texas. Stay with the Weather Channel for the latest update. Weather Center is next.
It defies every stereotype. Utility without the...
Time for Storm Watch, and we start off with a look at the tropics before we move back to the United States and update you on what's been happening there. Now, our last advisory has been issued because Francis is now a tropical depression. Here is the latest advisory as of 10 o'clock this evening Central Time. If you're plodding along, there are the coordinates. The center of Francis is about 65 miles to the west of Houston, winds at 35 miles per hour, and it is showing a little bit of a northeasterly drift at around 6 miles per hour. It's not moving very fast at all, but is showing something of a northeastward movement. And there's the pressure at 995 millibars. So not a lot of change so far. The winds have come down a little bit, which is good news. It's moved a little bit more off toward the northeast. And what we'd like to see is it eventually move on out so we don't have to deal with the flooding problems. But that's going to be a while, it looks like. And I'll show you why in a second. I want to remind you, though, there are coastal flood warnings still in effect for much of the Gulf Coast region from Waveland, Mississippi here down toward Baffin Bay, Texas. Potential to see some flooding along the coast because of these very persistent winds. Before the tropical storm moved inland, very consistent winds. It still is producing a very strong wind pattern, mainly here from east to west, and so we're concerned about the coastal flooding due to the winds, but also because of the heavy rains that we've seen for days and days now. So, moved inland today, but we'd been looking at the rain since yesterday and some places even the day before. Here's the latest satellite picture, and you can see there's still a broad area of moisture associated with the tropical depression Francis, and there's about where the center is located, and you can see a very slow northeasterly drift. Now there's nothing in the upper atmosphere to really kind of steer it one direction or another, and unfortunately as a result of that it looks like this system is going to take its time moving, and so the main concern is the heavy rains that are expected to continue. As you can see here on the big radar picture, we've got rains all the way from Texas back toward Mississippi, parts of Alabama, even at times into western Florida around Pensacola. Some of the heavier rains right now moving on in north just to the west of Mobile. And it's been Texas and Louisiana, though, that has thus far received the brunt of Francis. And latest radar here showing a little bit of light rain just to the south of Houston near Galveston. Not too problematic. Some of the heavier rains up around Beaumont, moving northward, also around the College Station area. And you can kind of get a sense of the circulation associated with the tropical depression here. And with this slow movement, we're going to see rainfall rates of several inches perhaps before tomorrow morning. Also those heavy rains moving on shore near Lafayette, Louisiana, near New Orleans, moving northward into Mississippi, eventually moving on into perhaps parts of Arkansas, maybe even moving into Oklahoma. So some good news for some areas of Texas that do need the rain, in Oklahoma as well. Some bad news for folks, particularly in southern Louisiana and eastern sections of Texas that who have seen so much rain and haven't really seen much of a break. Oh, excuse me. All right, here is a look at what's happening around the rest of the tropics. Here's some good news. Things in the Gulf of Mexico are quiet. The Caribbean is very quiet. Right now, the upper level winds are just not very favorable for any sort of development, which is really nice. And as you can see here, nary a cloud in the sky, considering this is the tropical Atlantic. Now, here's the northern part of South America. So very, very quiet. We have to go all the way to the African coast before we really run into anything of any interest. We have a little wave here that's showing up with a little bit of rotation. We'll have to watch it. It's still many days away from affecting any landmass, so that's the good thing. We don't have to worry about that too much. All right, and Javier is no longer a concern. So now we head you back into the United States, where besides the heavy rains associated with Francis, we've been watching these thunderstorms that have developed during the latter afternoon hours and then continue through the evening hours, anywhere from Arizona into Colorado, Utah, and Nevada. And there's the potential with some of these thunderstorms to see not only heavy rains, and we have had some flooding problems, Clark County earlier, Lincoln County, Mojave County, these counties in Arizona and also in Nevada. That's where we've seen some of the heavy rain. We had some hail with some of these thunderstorms. Things have quieted down somewhat now. Latest radar showing that Las Vegas is finally drier, but some of the heavier rains moving on in toward Cedar City, near the Grand Canyon, and on into south central areas of Utah. And there are flash flood watches here, so we'll continue to keep our eyes on this region. More heavy rain expected, perhaps more isolated in southern Utah, and then here, some places seeing more than 5 inches. So just not a good situation. Well, coming up next, we'll be checking out all the latest on the tropical depression, and we'll also have your forecast for...
The end of Tropical Storm Francis may not mean the end of troubles for flooded areas along the Gulf Coast. The most up-to-date information is coming up on Weather Center.
For the original aviators, there was only one seat in the plane.